Okay, we're on. Be starting in about a minute, as soon as the clock hits 6 o'clock.
Isaac said that he's working.
Okay, we're on connected now. So
Okay.
okay, we'll start. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Hello, everyone. Last week I introduced a new series that I'm basing on the Mahanama Sutta from the Anguttara Nikaya 1111 in the Anguttara. This was a sutta where the Buddha was asked by the layman, the Sakyan layman Mahanama, how should he conduct himself as a layperson with many duties. And the Buddha gave a list of 11 items in Anguttara Nikaya, Book of 11s. He enumerated 5 qualities to be developed, and then he recommended 6 contemplations. So we're going to go through them one by one. Just to recap the qualities to be developed. These are Saddha, or faith or confidence, which we're going to speak about today. Virya, energy. Samadhi, stillness or stability of mind. Mindfulness, sati, and panya, wisdom. So we're going to talk about Saddha today. This is most commonly translated as faith. Sometimes confidence is used. It comes from the verb saddhati, which means to put one's confidence in or one's reliance upon something. And the original root is from Sanskrit sraddha, which breaks down to mean bearing in one's heart or holding in one's heart. And this is appropriate because faith is really more a matter of the heart than of the head. It's the mental quality of putting confidence or faith in something or someone, and it doesn't really have anything to do with thinking or reasoning, although a wise faith is not contrary to reason. And I know in Christian theology there's a term, I'm trying to remember the Latin, credo absurdum est. I believe because it is absurd. There's no such injunction in Buddhism. We're not telling you to believe anything absurd. And the Buddha also said his teachings are ehipassiko, come and see, which is an expression that, first of all, it means that we can come and check it out. We can, don't just blindly adhere to it, but come and have a look and see, try it out, see if it makes sense. It's also an expression of the Buddha's confidence in his own teaching, that he's able to say that. He's confident enough that if people check it out, they will find value in it. Faith is compared to having a map when lost in the desert. You know, the desert is samsara. If you have a map, which is the Dhamma, you can find your way out. A modern analogy that I've heard that I kind of like is it's like the headlights in your car illuminating the path ahead. You know? The strongest faith is that which is based on experience. And if we return to the map analogy, it's like, say you were going on a road journey and you'd never been down that road before. So you pick up a map, you buy a map someplace, but you're not sure if the map is accurate, but you have enough faith to start out on the journey according to the map. But as you proceed down the highway, you see more and more places that are marked on the map, crossroads and towns and rivers and so on. As you pass them, your confidence in the map gains and is strengthened, and you have more confidence that the remaining portion of the map that you haven't yet traveled is going to be accurate as well. So an initial faith is required to start. That's really a movement of the heart. But then it's strengthened by experience along the way. One of the places in which faith occurs in the scriptures is in the Upanishad Sutta, the transcendental dependent arising, which describes this sequence of states one goes through from a state of suffering of ordinary existence to full enlightenment, realization of nibbana. And faith is the very first movement of the mind out of the cycle of dependent origination. And faith then emerges into the next stage as joy, and pamoja, delight or joy. So a couple of things we can get from this. One is that from a state of suffering, faith is really the lifeline. It's the way out. And for someone who's really got an extraordinary amount of suffering, if they're really in a bad place, then faith is really the only spiritual quality that they can initially summon that to get them out of that place. It's no good trying for more subtle states like samadhi or mindfulness at that point. You're so overwhelmed. But if you have faith that there is a way out of this, then you can begin the rest of the journey. The other thing is moving forward from faith. The next stage is pamoja, which is happiness or joy or delight. And faith. This is a quality of faith to brighten the mind and release happiness, dispel gloom. And you can see this in different religious traditions that are heavily oriented towards faith, like some of the bhakti traditions in Hinduism, or some of the Christian sects that are very heavily faith-based. They're often the people are very happy. Even with some of the Hindu Bhakti people, it's almost to the point of being blissed out, which is maybe an overdevelopment of one-sided overdevelopment. But this illustrates the power, the potentiality of faith. Faith also occurs in the list of the 5 indriya, the 5 spiritual faculties. And this is one of those lists where different components have to be balanced. And the complementary opposite of faith is panya, or wisdom. Here emphasizing a discriminating wisdom. That is the wisdom to understand things in detail in their particularities. So the two have to be developed together, and if only one side is overdeveloped, there's an imbalance. If faith is developed without any wisdom, then it can be quite dangerous. People can end up believing any foolish thing. And I think, one of the extreme examples that I remember from my lifetime was a comet. I think it was in the late 90s, maybe. I can't remember the date. There was a comet that came close to the Earth and was visible. And there was a religious movement that claimed that the comet was actually a spaceship and Jesus was the pilot. And if you wanted to catch a ride on the spaceship, you had to kill yourself in a certain ritual way. And I think it was like 100 people or so in some compound in southwestern U.S. They did themselves in, hoping to hitch a ride on the comet with Jesus. So those people, you cannot fault them for lack of faith. You would have to have a lot of faith to carry through with that self-destruction. But they were sorely lacking in wisdom. They believed with their heart something that most rational people would dismiss right away as being ridiculous. Well, it's a tragic kind of a case, but it illustrates the danger of faith that's not tempered by wisdom or guided by wisdom. You have to have some discrimination about where you're going to place your faith. On the other hand, if you overdevelop the side of discriminating wisdom without any faith, it's like it's said by the Buddha to be like a sickness caused by medicine. It leads to cunning, like a sickness caused by medicine, which is very hard to cure. So this is the type of person who probably thinks of himself as being very hard-headed and rational, but is very skeptical and dismissive of everything, cynical, and they're usually quite miserable people, quite unhappy people, because they have nothing. They're unable to place their faith or confidence in anything. They hold nothing in their heart. It does occur to me that these two qualities could be seen as an example of a left brain, right brain balance. Faith being the holistic right brain approach to reality, and wisdom, or discriminating wisdom, this particular subset of wisdom, being like the left brain, analytical, detail-oriented approach. And either one by itself, overdeveloped, causes problems and is detrimental to the spiritual path. But if both are in harmony and working together, then you go forward. So an important issue to address when speaking about faith in the context of Theravada Buddhism is what exactly are we being asked to put our faith in? And the general broad answer would be Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, the triple jewel. But when you get down to cases, let's say, it's really the third noble truth, the truth of the end of suffering, that has to be taken on faith. The first noble truth, the truth of suffering, should be self-evident. It's easily verified by experience and reason, and This is actually what the Buddha said about this truth, was that we should know it, we should understand it. So it is capable of being understood with the rational mind. It doesn't require faith. The second noble truth is the truth of the cause of suffering, which is craving. And that's susceptible certainly to reason. When we study it and understand what the Buddha means by it exactly and what he's talking about, it makes sense, and we can accept it. And we can actually, in meditation, you can actually see how it works. So that doesn't need to be taken on faith. And the fourth noble truth is a prescription for practice, and that's verified by the principle of ehipassiko, by trying it and seeing. But the third noble truth is the truth of the end of suffering, which is the realization of the unconditioned, or nibbana. The conditioned is dukkha, is suffering, and the end of suffering is nibbana, or asankata, the unconditioned. And until one has experienced it, it's completely unaccessible to the rational mind. It's literally ineffable. It can't be spoken of. It can't be described. It's outside the realm of speech and reason. So there's no possible way to verify it, that there is an end to suffering, except by experiencing it, which is what the Buddha said about the third noble truth, is that one should realize it, or enter into it. He used a quite different verb than when he was talking about the first noble truth, which the verb pajanati means to understand well, to encompass the mind. So the third noble truth has to be taken on faith, that there is an end to suffering, until the point of stream entry. Then the nibbana is glimpsed. And it said, and this is why it said that a stream winner has perfect faith. He has perfect confidence in Buddha Dhamma Sangha, because he has seen the most difficult bit. He's glimpsed nibbana, so his faith is perfected or purified. I don't think that this. There's a saying that I don't think is actually attributed directly to the Buddha, but comes later. At least I haven't been able to source it in the canon, but there's a saying that the stream winner has perfect faith, and the arahant is beyond faith, or has no faith, because the arahant has completely entered nibbana, so he needs to take nothing on faith. He's absolutely purified, and his understanding, his perfect ignorance is ended. So if we go by this, also as a corollary, we could also say that faith is kind of a medicine for ignorance. We're immersed in ignorance. We, at our present state of imperfection, we cannot grasp or understand everything. So with the faculty of faith, we can pierce that darkness. It's like a light in the head, the headlights of a car. In the context of the sutta we're dealing with, the Mahanama Sutta, for these qualities, that the 5 qualities that the Buddha recommends, the phrasing he uses is that one who has faith can succeed. One who does not cannot succeed. And I would say that from what I've observed with people who take up a spiritual path, some people have made good progress and have some success in the spiritual endeavor, and other people don't, and they may struggle for years. And I think the key factor that I've I've decided, observing cases, that the key factor is faith. And if people have a strong faith, then they're able to devote themselves to the practice and succeed. If your faith is not strong, when it gets difficult, you're likely to give up. There are stories in from different sources, from different Buddhist traditions. I've seen Thai stories and Zen stories and Tibetan stories, all on the theme of the motif or genre of story is that you have an ignorant, illiterate farmer or peasant or woodsman who goes to see the great master, and the great master's surrounded by all his learned disciples, and they're all discussing some obscure esoteric philosophy. And the master really doesn't want to spend time with this country bumpkin who comes showing up at the door. He kind of dismissively gives him a sentence or two of instruction. Go sit still and watch your breath. Then you'll come see me later. He gets rid of him. The guy is so thankful. He says, "Oh, thank you, master, thank you." He bows and he goes and starts practicing and attains to all kinds of high states of liberation very, very quickly. It's because his mind is pure, and he's beginning with it from a position of absolute faith. He's not nitpicking the practice. He's just devoting himself to it. So going on from that observation, a couple of practical things about quality of faith or saddha and the possession of it or the lack of it. I've said that the most important thing to have faith in is the Third Noble Truth, but there's a couple of other ways in which it manifests in practice. One is that to have faith in the practice itself, and that is the ability to hold it in your heart, to devote yourself to it. And this a lack of this quality can manifest in the person who's unsure about the practice and is always unable to give himself up wholly to it because he's thinking, well, maybe I should do it this way or that way. Ajahn so-and-so said to do this, and Rinpoche so-and-so said to do that. And I'm not really sure what's the correct way. Whereas someone who just does it, the fact, and is not worried about niggling, nitpicking details of technique, but just devotes himself to the practice. The practice sorts itself out in time if you just do it. So that's one thing. The other thing that's actually quite crippling is spiritually debilitating is to have a lack of faith in yourself. People might feel, well, I believe that the Buddha was enlightened and Ajahn Chah was enlightened. The Dalai Lama was probably enlightened, but I don't think I could do it. I'm such a hopeless case. There's no way I could possibly do it. And it's sort of like with that attitude, of course not. You're not going to do it. You have to have faith that you too can realize the truth. It is within you as a human being. You had this great good fortune to be reborn in a human form. I assume all my listeners are human. I may be making unwarranted assumptions, but let's go with it. You have the good fortune to be born into human form, so you can start from that position. That you, as a human being, you have no guarantee of anything, but you've got the potential if you devote yourself to it. Have faith in yourself that you can do it. So I think I'll stop there and um, answer your questions. If you have questions, just put them in the chat as usual, and I'll deal with them as they appear. Okay, starting to come in. Any further thoughts on Saddha as a key to access Dewa realms? I don't know if it's having faith is sufficient to access Dewa realms, but I I think without it, it wouldn't be possible to have any connection. Hi Bante, I know faith is important to commit to understanding samsara with all its realms and beings, including Dewas. What about the faith in the understanding that defilements and asavas are maras? Yeah, that gets kind of complicated. If you're thinking about the defilements as maras, that can be a kind of useful way of thinking about it sometimes. But the Buddha did specifically say that that Mara is sometimes used metaphorically. There is a distinction between uh, Mara Devaputta and Mara Asawa. Mara Devaputta is the being Mara, the actual being, the entity, whereas your defilements are Mara by analogy. They're not actually Mara. Um, and I think there can be a kind of a danger in externalizing the defilements. It's like, in a way, it's like escaping responsibility. Well, Mara made me do it. The defilements are your own doing; they're your own creation, um, and whatever role Mara has in it, he hasn't got the power to force you to do anything. And generally, Mara does. Ajahn, can you talk about formalist meditation? It'd be too big of a topic and off topic from today's theme to go into it too much. But if you go on the Arrow River website, I've got some guided meditations on formless meditation in the Dhamma talk section. You can find them under the category of meditation. What could be the value of Saddha for a Patujana at the time of death? That would be a very, very good quality to have at the time of death, that you would be aligning your consciousness with the Dhamma. You have faith in the Dhamma. That would be a powerful force guiding your future rebirth into a fitting, suitable vehicle for continuing to practice. Any ideas on fitting in both worlds as needed in samsara and have some samadhi mingle without judgment and harmony? Well, in a sense, this is what this particular Mahanama Sutta is about, because it's the Buddha talking to a layman who particularly says, I have many duties, and how can I practice the Dhamma in the midst of my worldly affairs? Of course, it's easier if you disengage from as much as possible from worldly doings, but not even the bhikkhu can't disengage from the world entirely. It's not possible as long as you're flesh and blood. The most important thing is your internal life, that you're not not believing or taking refuge in the condition. Next one. I met someone a few days ago who said he chooses to believe certain things even if they are not true or can't be proven true just because of the benefits it brings to his life. I think this is wrong. Well, that's an odd sort of philosophy. I mean, if he can say, well, I know it's not true, but I still believe in it, then he can't really believe in it. He's kind of playing games with it. Question. Namaste. After becoming Sotapanna, totally, will there be about 700 years of life to attain Nibbana? No, I think you got that a bit mixed up. After attaining Sotapanna, the teaching is that there will be a maximum of 7 more lifetimes. There's no fixed number of years. And since some of those lifetimes might be as a dewa, the time period might be very long indeed, much longer than 700 years. Could also be much shorter. The 7 lifetimes is a maximum. It's the most that a Sotapanna has ahead of him, but he can reach Nibbana in less time than that. I remember a sutta where the Buddha said his disciples would not transgress even when their life is threatened. Is sila a manifestation of Saddha? Well, certainly what I would say about that is that to maintain one's sila to that degree, that you place your sila even ahead of preserving your life, you would have to have a very strong saddha or faith to be able to do that. Is saddha something the Buddha said to reflect on? Is reflecting on it part of developing it? Well, it's not given specifically as a subject of contemplation, but all these qualities, are subject to yonaso manasikara, or right application of mind. You should be developing an understanding of what these qualities are, so you can recognize them in yourself and develop them. Next one. I find myself waiting around for faith to give way into a large source of spontaneous energy and enthusiasm. However, I am starting to feel like such a sudden spike in energetic joy may never arise. Well, don't be so goal-oriented, and don't try and predetermine what's going to happen. Have faith in the path and in the goal. And the goal being realization of the unconditioned, and let it unfold as it will. Don't expect particular things to happen that may or may not happen. What about escaping defilements because I don't want to be influenced by evil? That's not escaping responsibility. That's escaping sensuality and hatred. I'd rather hang out with the Brahmas in jhana. Yeah, that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. We should be trying to escape from the defilements, and jhana is a good place to hang out. There's certainly no harm done by it. Bhante, I suffer from weak faith in my abilities, but continue to practice anyway. If I keep at it, will I one day be able to see the chitta? Well, if you... I don't know how to say this without sounding pedantic, but no, you're never going to see the chitta. No one ever sees the chitta. You can't see the chitta. You could know you can have an intuitive understanding of the chitta, but it can't be turned into an object. If you and that's what I was saying in the talk about having faith in yourself. The fact that you're that you're continuing to practice and you have an aspiration to realize the knowing that um, that should give you faith that you know you're a person with potential. You've got that seed of Bodhi in you. It's possible for you to make progress. You cannot prejudge it and say think it should happen in such and such a time frame. You just have to keep proceeding with confidence. Jen, sometimes I feel that I'm trying to figure out or treating meditation like a puzzle I need to solve when I'm sitting. Could it be that I'm trying too hard and should just go with the practice? Yeah, well, you kind of answer your own question there. Yeah, it's not. You shouldn't look at it like a puzzle. You should just allow it to unfold and uh, just go with the flow of the unfolding Dhamma. Don't because the highest Dhammas you're not going to be able to figure out intellectually anyway. So let go of that puzzling mind. Okay, when the Bodhisattva was perfecting parami, it is said that he would end his life prematurely and be reborn in higher realms to be reborn human. Doesn't this go against the first precept? I'm not sure where you got that. I'm not aware of him ever saying that he would end his life deliberately prematurely. It sort of doesn't even make sense in a way with what I understand about the Bodhisattva path in Theravada, because the idea is that it takes as long as it takes, and besides having extreme compassion, he also has extreme patience, that he's willing to go through such a long road, such a long journey. So if he has to spend a long time in the Deva realm, that's just part of the journey. Okay, next one. A bit off topic. Does merciful killing justify at all? Like if it's an animal hit by a truck, putting a single bullet in its head to end the animal suffering. No, in Theravada Buddhism, in the Sila, there's no allowance for mercy killing at all, whether of humans or animals. I remember in Thailand, when I was in Thailand, there was a case came up where there was a young elephant was being transported from one place to another in the back of a truck, and the truck got in an accident, and the elephant broke its legs, and it was crippled, and there was no way to fix it. They didn't put it down, and there was a controversy that went on for a little while. It was mostly I'd occasionally see the English language press, the Bangkok Post, and would run stories about this case and letters to the editor. Western people were appalled and shocked and said, "How can you let this poor animal suffer?" But the Thais understood, you don't take a life. And in the end, the controversy was resolved when the Queen put the elephant under royal protection, so no one dared to do anything to it. So they just kept it comfortable and give it painkillers and let it live. One thing I've heard one of our monks say about like mercy killing of animals, people say, "I couldn't stand to see that poor dog suffer," and that kind of gives away the game. It's not the dog you're concerned about. You're suffering because you see the dog in misery. You're ending your suffering by putting the dog down. Are there some arahants that don't know they're arahants? No, that they would not be. It would not be such a thing. You gave an example of faith with no wisdom. And people who kill themselves to board the spaceship with Jesus. Can you give an example of a person with lots of wisdom but no faith? Well, there's lots of examples of that. in the world, you can see very cynical, skeptical people. Usually tend to be materialistic and atheist, and they feel themselves superior. They have this. They're not fooled by anything. They're tough minded, and but they actually live in a very narrow place in their mind. They're very narrow minded, and they're unhappy. It's that they see a very mechanistic, mechanical kind of world. They don't have any faith in the spiritual side of things at all. Can other beings aside from human attain arahant? Um, there is mention of Brahma gods becoming arahant. Um, Not devas. If a deva attains to, they can become stream winners, but if they attain to the second stage, Sakadagami, they immediately expire from being a deva because without a strong sensuality, they can't preserve a form in that sensual world, and they're reborn either as human or as a Brahma. So none of them, they can't even reach second stage and remain a deva, so they couldn't become an arahant. Below the human realm, there's no possibility, like animals or ghosts or hell beings, there's no possibility for them to attain even to Sotapanna. If there was attained arahant, do they need to immediately parinabhana? Well, I kind of answered that. They wouldn't attain arahantship in the deva form. As soon as they reach second stage, they would be reborn in another form. Okay, so the questions seem to be slowing down a bit. I'm just going to mention about next week's topic. I'm just confirming I got it in the correct order. Next week is energy, or virya, as a next quality to be developed for success. Okay, now we'll see about a couple more questions. Ajahn, why do monastics not talk about their attainments with lay people? That's a Vinaya rule, and I think it's a wise one, because there would be a possibility of abuse. Someone claiming to have states, and even being mistaken about having states. It's possible, and it actually happens a fair bit, that people imagine that they've got one or the other attainment, and they don't really. And they could mislead a lot of people if they start boasting about it and talking about it. And it's also that Uttara Manusadhamma states, that is, states spiritual attainments are not to be used as a way of gaining followers or gaining reputation. It's kind of demeaning. Do non-returners have to experience all past dark karma before they pass? No. No, that they can, if there's, in fact, it's really the only way that old karma is ever extinguished without being realized is the attainment of arahantship. And it's like all debts are cleared, the books are closed. If you make it to arahantship, you're not subject to any remaining karma. Well, here's an interesting question. What language do devas and gods speak? Well, if you believe the commentaries, they speak Pali. According to Buddhaghosa, they speak Pali, but he also claims that Pali is the primordial language, and that it's innate in all human beings. And if children were raised without being exposed to language, they would spontaneously speak Pali, which seems quite impossible. I think that's a bit of also, it makes no historical sense because Pali is actually much later than Sanskrit. So I don't know. Who knows what language the Dewa speak? They probably have their own Dewa language. I bet the verb conjugations are really difficult to master. Okay. So I think I'll close it for today, and see you again next week. And have faith, and you will succeed. Well, I can't resist this last question somebody's asked is: is there a point of view one could take to keep metta for mosquitoes? Yeah, that is actually a very practical question here right now. We're pretty overrun. If you remember that the mosquitoes that are biting are the females who want to feed their brood, they feed their young. It's like little mothers trying to take care of their young. You can maybe find some compassion for them in that. That they're and just more generally, they're little suffering beings in samsara. They're actually very good teachers for us because they teach us patience and compassion. We have to, if we can manage the sila of not killing mosquitoes, then that's a very good practice and it's a good merit. Okay, so with that, I'll close for the day.